So I gotta use this live feature again because you can save it as a video. It's much more easy than to, record it and then upload it. It's just easier. So I want to read something out loud again from the Manifestor Manifesto because it's a very nice book and I really love manifestors and I think they should have more information spread there because there's not much, most of the stuff is either generators or projectors and manifestors are still part of this world and they should receive some information on Instagram too. And I really like to read that stuff, because when I read stuff out loud, I kind of even, learn for myself. It gives me another perspective because, I'm a mental projector. I kind of read or speak and then I listen to myself while I'm speaking. And sometimes it makes like, okay, makes more sense. I can integrate the stuff even more. And if you like, as always, if you liked it, please feel free to buy me a coffee. You don't need to. But if you feel like, this was awesome, this is nice, I want to support this guy, feel free to buy me a coffee via my link tree in my profile. Okay, let's just jump into it. This is from page, 10, I guess. Authority is the guide. Each of us manifestors have a different instrument or different instruments. Authorities that are the things that drive us. They are our signal. This is the only thing we can count on because our mind is going to lie to us. Because we can do these things, we end up constantly getting into trouble with it. We just do. Again, you have to see how different we are from all the other types. They are waiting for something. We, as manifestors, are not. We're making things happen. And when you're making things happen, it's so easy to be in the not-self trip that it's your mind that's telling you. Let's say you're thinking, you got an idea, some kind of idea, whatever it is. What your mind is going to do is, it is going to measure that idea. It's going to measure the good parts of the idea. It's going to measure the bad parts of the idea. It's going to weigh them up and down. Now, if you're not self and you're then waiting for your mind to tell you which way to go, now if you're correct, you allow your mind to do what it does. It's going to measure the this and that and whatever, but it doesn't get to decide. It doesn't. It has to come out of your authority, that the action you can take, that the power that's inherent in as manifestors, it can only work for us. It can only bring us peace if we are correct. So there's like this little thing. I guess some of the manifestors, maybe even not know. It's you cannot just do what you want. I mean, you need to kind of wait too for your inner authority, for this whatever spark it is. For the manifestor, the not-self mind is the greatest challenge. We have this incredible privilege of being able to do things. And we abuse that and get abused at the same time by listening to what our mind thinks we should put this incredible power to. It doesn't know. And just because it measures this and that, it can always claim victory. Don't be fooled by that. Everything about human design gets distilled down to whether you can live your strategy in authority. It's the only way to strip the mind of its power. And because we have an artificial strategy, our authorities are even more important to us because they are the keys. If we wait for our authority to move us, we can move anything. The strategy is very simple. That unease that you created the moment you came into the world, all of that punishment that you take because you're not controllable, all of those things disappear as a manifestor the moment you play good manifestor, like a good dog. This is what manifestors do or does when it informs. You're standing there with a generator and you're informing the generator of something what has arisen out of your authority. And in that moment, you're informing the generator. The generator is thinking, good manifestor, trustworthy manifestor. Our auras, these closed auras, they don't let anybody in. Not your greatest lover, not your greatest friend. Closed is a very powerful word. It's closed. It is only when you come to grips with that you can really grasp that. I've talked about it a lot. What it's like for me to be a manifestor father and to have closed auras, and I've generated children. Talking about Ra here, and I have to protect my aura. And at the same time, it's so obvious to me. It's been obvious to me all of my life that I'm Not an easy person to get access to. Not an easy person to get close to. It's just the way it is. It's why I have such empathy for manifestor mothers, and I do. To be a mother with a closed aura is something that is deeply difficult unless you're aware and you grasp that it's that so it doesn't scar your psychologically and doesn't create barriers between you and your children. I have a very deep and loving relationship with my children, but it is a relationship that arises out of what I'm as a being. I'm a manifestor. I can't be what I'm not. So manifestor parents are so busy with trying to overcompensate for their aura instead of just explaining it. I have a manifestor mother, so I actually know what he's talking about. It's about awareness after all. We have to be so conscious of our aura so that we don't have all kinds of psychological expectations about our relationship to the other, because again, remember, we are the ones who always have to risk rejection. We are the ones who have to ask the boy or the girl for the date. We're the ones who have to put things on the line. We are always the ones who are at risk. It's not an easy thing. This is powerful stuff to have to deal with as you're growing up, to be able to understand that, to be able to see that what comes easily to others, we have to go get. This is a real force that is there in our mechanics. And we can feel incredibly alone in all of that if we are not aware, if we do not get it. You can only handle resistance so long. Anger is a killer. Anger and bitterness are the most vicious things that we have in type. They both go very, very deep. When I was not self, I could carry anger a very, very, very long time. Anger is blinding. Manifested children are pushed deep into the foundations of anger in their life. And that anger arises after all. The not self in all kinds of situations is going to watch that anger come out. Ultimately, the cry of the manifestor is, "It's so unfair." And everybody looks at the manifestor and says, "What the hell are you talking about?" They are manifestors, as if somehow being able to do things is something that is so delightful. It isn't. Manifestors are ancient. It's not our time anymore, the time of the manifestors. It's not. The way that the evolutionary program is moving is towards something else. It's certainly moving away from what we are. It's no longer our responsibility to carry the burden of pulling all of this into the future and making it happen. There's another dynamic that is unfolding on this plane. It was my joke over the weekend with the project workshop. My comment to them was, I would like to see how you do this job without a manifesting capacity. How are the projectors doing going to be able to guide into the future without having what is manifestor power, which is to initiate things and drag all the generators along with you, because this is basically what the manifestors do, or did. I've always joked about manifestors and generator slaves. If you think about it, we're 8% of the population. They're like 67 or even more of the population is generators. Each of us have the right to at least 8 generator slaves, so to speak. That's a joke, by the way. Though there's always some interesting stuff in the humor. It's what we used to do. We were the ones that made things happen, and the generators came along as builders. This is how the whole culture and civilization was built, and it's over. So there's not even the residual recognition that we have a right to our power on this plane. There isn't. Now, when a manifestor approaches, there is just simply a sense of unease. I can say from my own experience, when a manifestor is living out their true nature, it's not that unease anymore. It's different. It will become more like, oh, there is something, it will kind of get your attention, but it's not that unease anymore for me. It's my own perspective. Now it's interesting. Many of us have different configurations and activations and all that stuff, and obviously there are many varieties and of the way in which that works. Not all of which is obvious. If you have a very social manifestor in terms of their design, it's not going to be obvious that they won't let you in, but oh boy, they won't let you in. They can be very social, but it doesn't mean that they can let you in. Until the manifestor can deal with this quality of aloneness, and again, it's not about loneliness, and it's not about not being able to have the kinds of relationships that are really enriching, it isn't, but it's about coming to grips with what it means to live inside of a closed aura and to understand that so deeply. The only thing that you're really going to be able to rely on in this life is life in order to compensate for that, because it's basically what it is to be able to operate correctly according to whatever authority you happen to have, because it's the only thing that's going to make a difference. For the emotional being, not now. Earlier I was talking about time. The dilemma for the emotional being is this assumption that life is short and things need to get done and they better get done now. Emotional manifestors are not here to work that way. Emotional beings are not here to be pressured by the movement of time. If you're pressured by the movement of time, it's only going to age you. It will make you feel old before your time. Emotional beings are not here to live in their existential time. Not here to live in existential time. They're not. They're here to live in their own time frame. Most of that time frame is not now, not now, not now. I think this is one of the most important expressions for emotional beings to develop in their own encounters with the this and the that of what life brings. Not now. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter whether somebody wants to talk to you, make love to you, or do business with you. It doesn't make any difference what it is. Just not now. Not now, because you don't know whether you want to be with that being or not in the moment. You have no idea. You just don't. It's always going to be conditioned by where you are in your emotional process. Always. So when you're dealing with an unemotional manifestor, everything is now. And when you're dealing with an emotional manifestor, everything is not now. It's that not now that makes the enormous difference in their process, because that not now is just waiting for their emotional system to be clear. It's waiting for it to be clear. Usually that takes the kind of sleeping on things. Just sleep on things. Wait until you get up on the next morning. See where you're at. It's constantly waiting for your emotional system to direct you. It's what it's there to do. It's the authority. But that authority that emerges is something you've got to trust in your emotional system, because it may not be what your mind wants. It may not be where your measurement has led your mind, all that kind of stuff. Once you have emotional clarity, doesn't mean that instantly your mind is going to recognize and that it says, oh, wow, terrific, we're now emotionally clear. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work that way. Mind is mind is mind is mind is mind. It does its thing. It never stops. You can't turn it off. You can't fix it. You can't change it. You can't repair it. That's not the job. Yes, that's it for now. Let's see if you wrote something that's maybe in a question or something here, but I guess not. Thanks for watching, and yeah, feel into that if you like.